Your average real estate buyer, homeowner, consumer are very sentiment and headline driven. And the entire sentiment has flipped around where rates are going to drop. Cold calling is something that we've been doing for our wholesaling business.
But is it effective?
It is very effective.
Any single multi-million dollar business have a whole team of cold calling.
Hey guys, my name is Austin Ye. I'm a 28-year-old real estate entrepreneur. I'm the founder of Rise Network, Ontario Property Deals, and then I also own multi-million dollar assets under management. I'm here on Wealth Busters, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about using empathy in your tenant relationships, how to get that money back from non-payment of rents, and how to deal with tenant situations. And also, I'm going to give you a quick couple tips on social media for 2024 that may help you build a seven-figure business.
So Austin, you bought your first property at the age of 23. That was about 5-6 years ago. What are some of the challenges that you faced back then that you think the new investor will still face today?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge is that like from the GTA, generally investing in your backyard is extremely tough.
Yeah.
You need a few $100,000, which I didn't have at that time because I just graduated university. So with a little bit of money, I was trying to find anything that made sense in the GTA. I could probably try to explore the pre-con option, but I didn't want to.
Yeah.
So I had to go through.
Why didn't you? Why didn't you want to get into the pre-con?
It didn't make too much sense to me at that time. Overpaying for, my opinion, I think you're overpaying for like an existing asset that you can get
For
cheaper and resale.
projected value. Right?
Exactly. And also, I wanted to do something a little bit more active versus passive, right? I wanted to get rental income
Sweat
immediately.
equity, all that.
You know what? That wasn't even the intention. Like I wanted to get into real estate to generate cash flow.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're not generating any cash flow from a pre-construction.
No, you
It's
have
like
to
all of
wait.
it. Exactly. So I was just like looking around at different markets that I could afford. And then I ran across, I think it was a Matt McKeever video where he was talking about
Matt
Windsor.
just what you saw on a podcast.
Yeah, he was like a huge inspiration for me to get
Love
started
that.
in investing.
Shout
I think
out
he was
to
a
Matt
lot.
McKeever.
Shout out to Matt. It's been a minute since I spoke with him, but yeah, he was a huge inspiration to my entire investing journey. And one of the few markets I could afford was Windsor. So when I narrowed down at that, everyone told me to completely avoid it.
Yeah.
And being 23, you
Why
sort
did people tell you to avoid it back then? To avoid Windsor?
blue collar, right? Very blue collar. There was no significant price appreciation at that time. So you're still looking at houses in the hundreds of thousands, not hundreds of 100,000 around that range. Now it's about $500,000 average home price there.
Crazy.
It's appreciated quite aggressively since. But at that point, high unemployment, very blue collar. People still had their mind in the automotive industry, the largely
right across.
Exactly. I didn't honestly put too much thought into it. I was eager to jump in. Maybe I should have done a little bit more research, but part of my story was taking action very quickly and then learning as I was
That's how you
progressing.
win, right? That's how you win in the long term
Yeah.
because a lot of people just think way too much,
Exactly.
right? And I think taking action is not a bad thing, but just don't scale so fast.
Exactly.
Right? You can take action, wait for a little bit, right? Because every time you grow, you're gonna go in the spiral circle, maybe go up, go down a little bit. But if you stabilize, then you're ready to go up again. But if you don't take action, you're always here.
That's
But if you
exactly
take too
right.
much action, we have seen it what happened in the market. A lot of people went upside down because they just scale too fast. They don't have a good system. They don't do sensitivity tests enough.
Yeah. You also don't want to think too much where the opportunity just flies by you multiple times.
Yeah.
So I think like at 23, you bought a property in Windsor. By any stretch of the means, I think that's like a huge feat on its own. Like at 23, I don't even think I was thinking of real estate. Like that's insane. Good for you.
Yeah. It was a byproduct of not really liking my full-time job. And so it sort of forced me to do
It's the
something
best
else
motivator,
there.
right?
And that's exactly what it is. I feel like
You
that
work
was
at
the
RBC,
peak
isn't it?
motivation.
You work at RBC, isn't it?
I worked at a bank, yes.
Yeah.
Bank.
Bleep that out.
You can say whatever.
Fine. My
They'll find
fiance-
me on LinkedIn.
My fiance just, my fiance works for RBC as well. By the time this episode goes out, she already quit the job. So she's quitting in 2 weeks. So that's, way past that. So,
And funny enough, you're speaking about growing too quickly. I think back then like it was a long time ago, but back then, a lot of the social media was pushing towards scaling aggressively.
Yes.
And a lot of people got in trouble. I almost got in trouble too, actually.
Why do you think people keep pushing for the growth?
I don't know. I think it's an ego thing. I think part of it is the coaching programs that definitely promote growing and scaling by any means, right? And you get
Yeah.
rewarded as a result of that. The entire social media space. social media wasn't very present when I was investing. I was actually one of the earlier, more Instagram users, funny enough, and that was only 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But now everyone's on Instagram. Everyone is showing their highlight reel. So to compete against that, that means you have to step out of your comfort zone, take a lot of leverage, and
100%.
people get stuck in a bad situation. I also got stuck in sort of a crappy situation.
Tell us more
earlier.
about that. Like, what was that situation you get stuck?
Yeah, fortunately, it wasn't in 2022. It was actually in 2020. So when COVID first hit, right? At that point in time, I was doing a couple of joint ventureships with different people. I was also buying myself pretty aggressively.
Tell us a little bit more about the breakdown. Are you taking private lending money, or
Yeah.
how do you structure that kind
Yeah.
of? Back then, this is back then, right? Already
Yeah.
been out of trouble, so we can talk about it.
Yeah,
right?
honestly, I wasn't even giving too much thought into it. It was buying to buy, hoping to
Yeah.
qualify. If I can't qualify, and I'll find a money partner, because at that point, money was pretty accessible.
Correct.
Now, with interest rates, with the volatility in the market, people are holding on to the money.
Yeah.
If you weren't able to qualify, you can find someone within a week or two. So I was at the peak of my confidence in real estate. So I was taking on projects. They were appraising above what I paid for them. So that was also sort of an ego boost there.
Yeah.
Like, that's the dream. You want it to appraise more than what you buy for. So I had 3 projects lined up that I needed to close on. Then COVID hit. Of course, all bets were off, right? Appraisals were falling short. Lending was tightening. Everyone thought every asset class was going to crash. It wasn't easy to get money all of a sudden. And luckily, I had lines of credits. But at that point, you don't know what's going to happen with the market,
100%.
right? It could be the end of it. So I still closed on those properties, some of them myself, some of them with a partner, because I really had no choice. Otherwise, I would have gone belly up right there and then.
Exactly.
But close on it. Fortunately, the market recovered, right? So this was like definitely a luck element. And to put things in perspective, everything I was doing from a technical point of view was right. I was buying below market value.
Yeah, off-market deal.
Off-market deals, below market value. The properties were cosmetic, quick renovations. They were cash flow positive. So I was doing everything fundamentally right. What it was doing wrong is not managing my cash flow. Not cash flow as in my bank account, my liquidity.
Yeah, liquidity.
And that was the entire
burn
thing.
rate, the burn rate.
That's exactly what it is, right? So even though fundamentally what I was doing is sound from a business sense, what I was I should not have been doing that. I should have protected my liquidity and grown responsibly. And that's sort of what we're seeing, I guess, like
Right
the
now.
past right now and last year as well.
Yeah, it's crazy because everyone knows like the expression like cash is king, and yet very few actually plan to have some capital set aside for exactly that, like emergencies, even having an emergency fund. Like when I used to work in the bank, the amount of people that didn't even know on a personal banking level that you should have in a reserve for emergencies was insane. And like especially you should have times 10 if you're in real estate.
Absolutely.
Because things can go belly up. Like 2020 fully came out of nowhere. No one was expecting it. And so like in that market, it's like the Wild West. We're literally just seeing things as they're happening. We don't have any precedents to compare it to, really. So that's crazy.
Yeah. And then how did you get up that hole then? You were having a high burn rate. So maybe some people are in the same situation can learn from you. How do you get out that hole?
It's tough. Honestly, if you were in the situation that I was in, there's not, I mean, there's a couple options, but like none of them may be the most ideal option, right? For me, if it was qualification of a mortgage, something that you could do is you can find a first-time home buyer to qualify. If you have the capital, you put it up. If you don't have the capital or the borrowing capacity, really you have very limited options. You got to close private and hope you can resell it. You got to assign it, which in a market like 2020, there wasn't really anyone picking assignments for the first 2 months. You're sort of stuck holding the bag. Like, I don't know if there's a true right answer to get out of that situation.
We just give up the deposit?
You could try that. Yeah, you could try that. Like that's what people are doing with the pre-constructions right now and hope that you don't get sued, right? So I did that with one of the properties actually. I spoke, because these are off market, you're speaking directly with the seller.
Yeah.
So I transparently let them know the situation I'm in, right? And them knowing it, they know that even if I don't close on the property, there's not much they can come after me for. So I'm like, keep the deposit. I apologize. This is the situation I'm in. I knew they didn't leverage up. They didn't buy it recently, so they still had a lot of equity in it. So they're okay to let me back out of the deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, walking away from deposit, finding a partner. If you have the money, get someone to hold the mortgage. Those are usually the suggested solutions. But if you have like 7, 8 properties and projects on the go, have put yourself in a little bit of a corner.
Yeah.
You do have to be able to sell at a loss if just eat some of the loss. I feel like real estate investors have a lot of ego where they don't want to accept any sort of loss. Like this market right now, I was doing a flip. I think I was telling you about it.
Tell me more on here. I forgot.
So I have a
Too many stories.
You conveniently forgot. Yeah, right for the podcast. But I had a property that I was flipping. I sent it on the wholesale list. It was in Little Portugal area of Toronto, so very desirable location. Wasn't able to wholesale it for the price I was looking for. So I got a 92% vendor take back from the owner at 3% interest. And this is when rates are like
Sounds
pretty
really
high.
good, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded great on
Sounded
paper.
really good.
It sounded perfect on paper. So I closed the property. I paid the renovations, got that done, and then all of a sudden the market slowed down pretty drastically over the fall market this year. And inventory was building up pretty drastically in Toronto. I think condos were 6 months of inventory, freehold was going upwards of 4.
Yeah.
And this is talking
Not
about starting
cool,
from
man.
1 month. Not cool
Yeah,
at all,
not
dude.
cool.
Not
Seller's
cool at all.
market now.
Yeah.
Sorry, buyer's
buyer's
market.
market.
Yeah.
Buyer's market. Getting to the buyer's market. But no one was really offering on that property because it was located on even though it was a great location, it was located on Dufferin, which is the main street.
Yeah.
And people in a slow market, people have selection. They don't want to buy in a main street. So
No.
that made it difficult, even though the renovations are great. I could have decided to hold the property and try to rent it and probably lose a lot of money every single month because it's a single family home in Toronto.
Yeah.
A few thousand maybe.
At least a few thousand. And the second question, like, how would I even qualify? I'm self-employed, right?
Yeah.
So that was the other thing. I could have explored short-term rental, medium-term rental, but I've accepted that it's not a property that I want to hold in the long term. For me to hold it, the only justification would be I hope prices go up, and hope is not a good strategy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hope is the worst strategy.
Not
you
even
can
in the
have.
stock market. Okay.
No, in any
Not
investment.
especially.
Exact-
Yeah,
especially-
FOMO is the worst.
With a levered asset, that's the worst thing you could do. So I accepted that this is probably going to be a loss. It's a magnitude of how big the loss is. So it ended up working out to be a little bit over $80,000 in the loss, which sucked.
It sucked, but it could be worse. It could be,
It
a
could
lot
be
worse.
worse.
thing.
Exactly. And if I didn't sell it, I don't like it would be at the back of my head every single day, right? If prices didn't recover and things did get worse, I would have kicked myself in the butt for not selling it. I'm trapped in a position where now there's more limited exit strategies. In retrospect, it seems like the market is sort of recovering, so maybe
Yeah.
I wish it didn't sell. I could sell it
Hey,
next
but
year.
You know
But,
what? Hindsight is 20/20.
Exactly.
And honestly, I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people don't know about being an investor. It's not about just getting all the profit, but it's making that decision of cutting your losses when you need to. Because you're not just losing your money, you're losing your investors' money.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a situation where you had a moment where you could have made that decision in the past, but you didn't? And then that kind of didn't really turn out well. And you're just like, oh man, I learned from that.
That is a good question. I guess I've sold off assets, but that was during the peak market. So it was an easy decision to do. I was never trapped in a situation where, actually, sorry, backtrack. Yes. To your question, I just thought of one. It was another flip. As you can tell, I haven't had much success with flip.
You love flipping, eh?
I've got more W's than L's, right? But the tough part with the flips that I've lost on is the only exit strategy is selling because these are very expensive products. So the other one was in a prime location of Hamilton, same sort of situation where I was debating, am I just going to hold this short-term rental, medium-term rental? Yeah. I decided again to sell it at a loss and take it as a learning lesson. I think I'm pretty good at that. I'm pretty good at cutting my losses and sort of moving forward because fortunately when I started off, I had a lot of wins to begin with. But if this is your first investment property,
hurts, eh?
that is, it becomes
stinks.
challenging. Exactly.
Psychologically, it's very hard for a human being to overcome the money loss. They're going to remember for life the pain from those loss seriously outweigh any of the gains of your consistent wins. That's just human nature. You know, a lot of people just get smashed down and just give up and say, hey, real estate doesn't work for me. Or same thing in stock market, right? They got in the high, all their stock goes down. They're like, stock market is gambling, right? But it's good that you did not give up.
Yeah.
And you keep coming back for it and you look at it for the long term and say, hey, I have more wins than losses. It's still working. Maybe just tweak a little bit. Instead of going to the luxury, maybe just more mid to low end, more necessity.
Yeah.
And just to give you kudos to that, it's not just you, because my friend Ryan Pineda also start flipping houses in the luxury market because he got influenced by other big flipper. He was doing really good at your low to mid end necessity houses. When he get into a luxury and the market turn, he lost millions.
Yeah.
It's just whatever you lose, 10, 20x, because he has like 10, 20, 30 properties in one goal. He has to sell some other personal properties.
Yeah, and the appeal of the luxury market is when I wouldn't consider my asset luxury in purchase price, sure, but in Toronto, it's pretty regular.
Yeah.
When I was doing the pro forma, my worst case scenario, so my absolute worst case was selling it at, I think it was like low millions, like $1,050,000, because this is not even a condo. This is not a townhouse. This is a semi-detached in Little Portugal. It's sold for sub-million.
My
which
mom
is
lived
why
there, just so you know.
it's a great
up
area.
and coming area.
It's an up and coming area.
LRT and all that good stuff. Yeah.
I like the area. I would live in there myself, but I wouldn't qualify.
It's weird though. A lot of stores over there are barred up, and a lot of empty commercial stores.
Have
you seen it? On Eglinton.
Depends on which area. No, not on Eglinton. So this was Dufferin and Dundas.
Oh, okay.
This is
way
close to
down.
downtown.
Okay.
Exactly. So this is like more prime. But what I was saying is that when I was calculating the pro forma, I thought worst case I was gonna make 20,000. Worst case,
But
if
what's
shit hit
all
the fan.
Yeah, but what's all the work for 20,000? All the risks you put for 20,000.
But that was the worst. That was like,
Yeah.
okay, like this is not going to sell lower than 1.1 million. And my best case situation was like 350, 400,000. My base case was 200,000. That was if I sold it for 1.2,
Yeah.
which there were a ton of comps to support that valuation. And again, it turned. So it hurts from going, I'm thinking I'm making 200,000 to losing close to six figures in a matter of months. And to your point on the low end markets, I had, speaking of flips, since we're on this topic, there's another recent flip that I've done. Low end inventory market turned, was able to refi it and get all my money out and rent it.
Wow.
It's cash flow neutral,
Exactly.
but I didn't have to sell it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay holding on to the asset because I'm not bleeding money. I'm actually probably making 50, 60 bucks every single month, which isn't a ton, but I didn't have to be a forced seller because it was the lower
Yeah.
class of inventory.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So now that I did a little bit of research on you,
I don't like where this is going.
we know that during the COVID up until this point, you were known for building a good relationship as a landlord to your tenant and all that. How was the conversation that helped you during COVID to make sure that tenants still paying on time and they all know their responsibility and landlords still upkeeping everything? How does that help you throughout these years of building those relationships?
Good question. When I started off investing, so I live in Toronto. I invested in Windsor at that time. The last thing I wanted to do is speak with tenants being so far away.
Yeah.
I always figured when you chat with tenants, you should always be face to face. Email and phone doesn't
Does
necessarily
it make a
work.
difference talking to them face to face?
Depending on what topic it is, it does make a difference. Sometimes
Most people said that you don't want your tenant to know you own the property. You don't even want them to know who you are, but you went the opposite way.
No. It depends on how you.
Oh, okay.
I do a little bit of good cop, bad cop, which is pretty much the truth. My properties, most of them are partnered with someone, so I'm the good partner. And then there's a bad partner who always wants ABC and doesn't care about anyone's
that's good cop, bad
opinions.
cop, yeah.
And when I go in, they know I'm part owner, but they also know I'm not the full decision maker.
Yeah.
Which is somewhat true, right? I think speaking with them does make a huge difference in your investing journey. Now, I don't recommend you starting to go do your own property management. I still have a property manager. I only intervene in cases where I think it's going to cost me a lot of money, or if it's a pretty dire situation for the tenant. Otherwise, day to day, it goes to the property manager. Because what I found is that, again, I own properties in multiple cities. My property managers are fantastic, but they never go to the lengths of building a relationship with the tenant as much as I will.
You're just a number, right? You to them just a number.
They have like 300, 400 units they're managing. They can't spend an hour of their day going to your property and speaking with the tenant.
No.
I don't have.
Unless you pay them enough.
Yeah, exactly. Which
But you don't know
I'm
if you're
I'm too
that
cheap
good.
to do that. So I just jump on a call with the tenant, and I think it makes them feel more comfortable knowing that they're speaking with one of the owners as well. And the way that I approach the situation isn't really matter of fact. It's more from a sympathetic point of view. So when
Yeah.
COVID rolled around, I called my tenants and I said, hey, I know that things are getting tough. A lot of businesses are closing down. There are like some layoffs. How is everything going with you? And fortunately, all of them were employed. Maybe one of them was going to struggle a little bit, but most of them were still okay. I think it was the thought that mattered a lot. But I found that most recently in this year, I had, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I had like 4 or 5 tenants not pay me rent, which was, that's a lot, all around the same time.
Yeah.
And I tried.
What's the reason though? Because I have good tenants turn sour. Not sour, just turn bad because of personal situation. And we followed the whole paralegal system. You know, we're not N4s, NAs. It's just really making sure we're running a business, right? And then turns out it's great. It cost me some money, but it turns out that now for the next 1 year they really have to pay on time or they're out.
Yeah.
Right. That's where we go to L1, whatever. I don't even know.
Yeah, you go through the legal,
I go through the
system.
paralegal do all that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
The only hesitation I have with that, because I've done it before, is that sometimes it will leave and it's not an amicable relationship, and they may damage the property and it takes 8-9 months to get them out. So you're gonna have 8-9 months of non-payment of rent plus maybe $10,000 in repair of the unit. And that could be more costly than just paying them out sooner. Not in all situations. Most tenants will be good in such that they stop paying rent, they get the notice, they'll move out. I don't know if you're going to be able to garnish the wages, but they'll leave the place in whatever condition they moved in. But there are those odd situations where you might risk them damaging it. So I always prefer to have the solution figured out quicker. And ultimately, at the end of the day, a lot of tenants are good, right? They
didn't come out try to take advantage of anyone, but situation changed on their side.
Yeah.
And this is the biggest cost for them, so they have to try to figure something out.
Yeah, they're paying for a year, then they stop paying 1 or 2 months. It's not because they don't want to pay, otherwise they wouldn't have paid to begin with.
Yeah.
There's usually something going on in their life. I literally, before coming in here, I had someone message me, one of my property managers, saying, hey, one of the tenants is going to pay late in January. That's the type of relationship I have with the tenants now. It's like, if you're going to pay late,
let me know.
Let me know in advance. If you let me know after, I'm gonna think worst case situation, right? And then I'm gonna feel like you're ducking and dodging me and not wanting to let me know anything. But whenever I speak with tenants now, like let's say if there's a non-payment of rent, I call them up and I let them know, hey, I know that you haven't made the rent payment. I just wanted to know, is everything okay? Like in your job, was there an unexpected expense? What's up? And I hear their point of view, because a lot of the times they do have a situation that comes up that has prevented them from paying. Now, the unfortunate part is sometimes they have a situation that is definitely going to hinder them from paying for 5 or 6 months. They might have, I don't know, maybe they're going through divorce and they lost their job. That's an extreme situation. They're not going to pay you anytime soon. So I sort of obviously have that conversation with them, and then I present a solution. I let them know, okay, look, like, realistically speaking, I can't float this property without getting any sort of rent for 6 months. I'm going to be a forced seller if that's the case. So why don't we work out another solution? I know you're sort of in a tough spot right now. If I give you 2 months to find a place, I don't know if you can find a place with family, if it's within your budget to move in a shared accommodation or something along those lines, I'm willing to let you go from your release. You don't have to pay me for those 2 months as well. Right. Wow. And to make life even easier, money's tight right now, I will pay you for your moving costs, because that might be $500-600. I don't think people realize how expensive it is to actually move and how stressful it can be.
Yeah.
So just offering them all of those things and say, if ultimately at the end of the day, if you can't make the payment in like 4, 5, 6 months, it's going to go to the LTB. You're going to get evicted. Whenever you get a job, we're going to have to garnish your wages. Let's just work out something sooner than later.
100%.
Man, golden, man. People don't get how much value that few sentence. That's basically Austin's script.
Sorry.
I'm going to chat with this kind of situation. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
For sure. Again, like that was sort of one situation I pointed out. It's really going to depend on what they say, but that's how you need to treat it. Is not like, yes, there's an element of business to it, but there's an element of humanity.
Correct.
And if you just look at things from your perspective, like, oh, I'm going to lose all of this money, you're going to go in the conversation and it's going to start off on the wrong foot.
100%.
Exactly.
So after being like on social media, like you have quite a big following and like a network and stuff, and I'm sure you've gotten some negative reactions to being a landlord. Like my biggest thing is, how do you remain so positive and focused on continuing real estate despite, you're trying to do something good, but there's a stereotype associated to it that people can't quite shake off?
Yeah, good question. I don't think many of my tenants find me on Instagram, so I haven't had to deal with that. Honestly, to be quite frank with you, when people ask me what I do, I hate to say real estate investor.
Yeah.
It has such a bad connotation
I know,
being
I
a
tried
landlord.
it many
I don't.
times.
Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Just leave it at
I
that.
own business.
But when my article came out in Toronto Life, I did get a ton of backlash from it. There was a lot
What kind of backlash?
death threats.
Death threats?
Yeah.
Send it to your email?
To the Facebook. They found me on Facebook and they
Wow.
started sending me death threats. They went crazy, bonkers. And I don't know. Like, I just have a pretty thick skin.
Yeah.
I just have a pretty thick skin, which honestly, if that's what you care about in real estate, other people's opinion, you shouldn't be in this business because there's going to be a lot more shit that you're going to go through than
100%.
worrying about what the next person that you never spoke to in your life is thinking, right? There's a lot more worse things that can come up through the investing journey than that. So I just grow a pair and move on. I don't know what the right answer for that is.
I love that. Grow a pair and move on should be on a
Just
t-shirt.
that's it. That's it.
That's awesome.
Awesome. We heard that before you quit your full-time job at the bank, your goal was to become a teacher. Is that real?
Yes. So my goal here, this is where reality sort of sets in real life, right? Versus
Hey, they have a good pension. What are you
ambitions.
talking about, reality?
Yeah, sure. Okay. We're looking at the benefits. Okay. Yeah, they have a good pension. I do still want to be a teacher sometime in life. I know my real estate, to be frank, is not my ultimate calling in life. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the lifestyle it does bring. It's not something I want to do forever. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It's very stressful. There are sleepless nights. And ultimately, it's a vehicle to get me where I want to be. I think a more fulfilled life generally comes when you're giving back to something or someone that you care about, right? So when I think about what real estate has afforded me and the happiest moments, like I sent my parents to Italy recent on an expenses paid vacation, that was
But
because
then their wallet was stolen.
yeah, I'm not
2 hours.
I'm not reambusing that. That's their issue. Not in 2 hours, in 15 minutes, literally on the
my
first train
God.
ride. That's not my problem though. But that's one of the things, right? Is like it allowed me to do that.
Yeah.
The Rise community. So I just had Kevin Gov and Amy Ho on my podcast. And at the beginning of the podcast, they said that I was the reason they started investing
Nice.
because of the Toronto Life article. So it's not necessary. I guess that's not really being a teacher, but that's still in the educational space where I've been able to inspire people to invest. And quite a bit of people, then you were invested in the podcast that I've invited on, they mentioned that the Toronto Life article was the starting point for them.
There we go.
And that is the biggest fulfillment that I've got. Obviously, the money's great. Don't get me wrong. But stuff like that is what really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't know if the education real estate space is what I'm going to do like full time as well. I think somewhere down the line, I want to pivot to something completely outside of real estate that's more fulfilling to my life.
What is that?
I don't know. At first it was a teacher, but to that point,
At what
it's
point you kind of start realizing teacher is not the way, but you're still teaching in its own way?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just in a non-traditional way. When do you realize that? Hey, Wellbusters, I just want to put on a side note, I do not run any ads on this channel. So if you enjoyed the video up until this part, make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a few friends that can benefit from this. And let's get right back into the episode.
Yeah, I think I've realized that as I was having my podcast and people were telling me the Toronto Life article was a big inspiration for them. I realized that I was sort of inspiring people. I was doing what I wanted to do, but within the real estate industry, which is fantastic. But again, I still want to do something bigger and better outside of just real estate. I don't know what that is. I haven't given too much thought. I do know that sort of my goalposts have changed in real estate where I want to be financially before I feel comfortable. And that is having, it's not great financial advice, but having a paid down primary residence. I just don't want any debt. If I am to do something else with my life other than real estate, I need to make sure that fundamentally, financially, I am sound. And that means not having any sort of debt, ideally in a location I want, and then having some sort of portfolio, whether that be in a dividend portfolio, S&P, private lending, where I'm able to make a comfortable amount of money. And for me, that's if I'm able to go have a dividend portfolio that generates me $120,000 a year, right, passively, and a paid down house, I'm good with that. And then I would feel comfortable taking more chances doing other things in
So
life.
let's just reverse engineer that. You want to get paid 120K
Yeah.
on a 4%, right? 4% banks dividend kind of thing. So you need about 3 million.
Okay.
Another paid down house in Toronto,
Yeah.
another million. Okay, 4
Sure.
million
Yeah.
of net worth.
After
That-
tax.
And after tax,
Yeah.
all pay off and you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think that sounds
Is
about
that
right.
your FU money? 4 mil? Because we just had Matt McKeever on. He says 100K. And I was falling off my chair. I'm like, Matt, you should come back to Toronto. What are you talking about?
Oh, 100K. I don't know about that. I need that a year. But yeah, I mean, I think, well, what is FU money really? FU money is just, you don't have to get a job and you can do things at your own term.
Yeah.
Right.
FU
And
money is whatever you give it, what meaning you give it. For real.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that is beyond FU money. Having that is, to me, a life goal. I think maybe you probably have people on the podcast that are way more ambitious than me. That for me, if I have that set up, I am happy. Again, real estate is a vehicle to get me where I want. It's not something I want to do
No,
forever.
100%. And I think that's amazing. Like, it's not a competition either. Like, the thing is, it's not about who retires with the most money. It's who retires the most happy, knowing that
Exactly.
they have their time. And that number is different to everybody. Like, some people it's 10 million, some people it's 5 million, some people it's 100,000. And like, at the end of the day, it's whatever you're going to be happy with. And I think actually we were talking in the beginning about like why everything is so aggressive nowadays. Like, people are just going ham on their portfolios, and it's the grind mindset.
Yes.
That's what it is. We always feel like we have to out level each other, and it's like, it's okay. It's okay just doing what you need at your own pace to make you happy.
It's funny you mentioned that, because sometimes I sit down and it's not a busy day and I wonder what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't take time to relax.
Yeah.
I just take time thinking I should be doing something, but I don't know what that something is right now.
I think that's a really, like, I got that kind of guilt feeling since I was studying in university, because I was an engineer, graduate from U of T. When I'm not studying, I feel guilty because all my friends are equally smart, if not smarter than me, and they're studying. And I look at them and I'm playing foosball. I'm like, oh my God, they're getting ahead of me. And I feel guilty, right? And I think this is the same thing either as in school or even in a more highly competitive. And it seems like you're already very competitive. So you're like me, we're type A, we want to grow. But then I start realizing that it's got to grow at a healthy pace.
100%.
And my body, like for the past 2 months when I'm so busy, we brought in so many new clients and all that, like I can feel my heart was burning. Sometimes it's like my gut was bloating. My heart was like kind of tight. I'm like, man, am I gonna get a heart attack or something? Because Claudette's dad, my wife's dad, got a heart attack when he's my age, when he has like 2 kids, running 3 businesses,
Yeah.
and that's when he get it. I'm like, I gotta learn from those, not mistake, but those lessons, and really think about more money doesn't mean more happiness, or just growing at this pace consistently with a strong foundation will actually make me happier. I'll eventually get there. And I will avoid a lot of the over leveraging and a lot of those mistakes.
Yeah.
There's actually an investor that makes over 7 figures a year who had to go to the hospital because they overworked themselves, and then they came back, sort of had to overwork themselves again. Right. So it's not, I mean, I understand the grind mentality. I think I get it. When you're young, you have high energy, you work hard now so you don't have to do it later. It could go too far. And at times it has gone too far for sure.
We're definitely going too far, I think, like as an entire society right now because of social media. Like, you see someone with stacks of bills, like flexing online, and people are like, that person is my age. Why am I not doing that?
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is you can do a whole lot of things and produce nothing, but just relaxing, you'll have a higher ROI because then it's more sustainable. You're going to do what you're doing on a more sustainable basis and for longer term versus a condensed amount of time. You stress yourself out, and by the time you hit 35, you're burnt out and you have no more energy. So self-care is doing something, guys. Remember.
And speaking about social media, there's a lot of BS going on there as well.
Can you mention some of like the common BS you see?
Yeah.
How do you notice those?
Other than Cody's profile.
So Cody's profile.
Not that doesn't even have a profile. So.
Hey, man. Silence speaks volumes.
So it is a highlight reel. I will say, I know people who you hear the community is small. You hear people in positions, you hear things that are happening, and then I wholesale deals and people reach out to me like, I'll buy it cash. was like, you don't have cash. I know you don't have cash. You're still trying to buy my deals. Like, no. And then you go on social media. It's a highlight reel. It's a highlight reel. People need money to sustain their business. People need deals. People need, if it's coaching, people need to present themselves in a certain way. Nothing is 100% legitimate on social media. Not even myself, right? I don't think anyone is completely very transparent on social media. So that's why sometimes I'm just completely quiet because I take 2 to 3 month social media breaks just to clear my head from all of it and just live a normal life. Because I don't think we are. For us, it's normal, but we're not really living a normal life. We're posting every real estate property we buy on social media, looking at what everyone's doing. Your day-to-day person on Bay Street or like going into our normal job is not doing that. So I just like to disconnect sometimes and just live a life of normalcy.
And it resets your expectations specifically.
It does.
Like I've noticed a lot of people who are just starting out in real estate are getting frustrated because they don't have a 20 unit portfolio after just starting out this year. And it's like, stop comparing yourself to the Goliaths. Just focus on what you're doing. Like you have 4 units. That's way better than what you were doing last year. Like just focus on that win. But you go online and this person's posting a brand new build and they've been in the game for like 50 years. It's just people get stuck in that cycle, and it's honestly very toxic sometimes. That's why I'm silent.
It could be inspirational. Don't get me wrong. I don't want
silent for too long, Nada.
Listen, man.
5 years? Are you coming out or what?
I focus on my client's social media to make it perfect.
Oh,
so
wow.
There you
also
go.
the class. There we go.
Humble plug in.
There we go. Humble plug.
funny. But yeah, I mean, it could be inspirational. A lot of people take inspiration to it. I've inspired others. I've taken inspiration to it as well. You just need to know when enough is enough.
100%.
But anyways, sorry, off a tangent.
But no, but it's like what you said earlier, like knowing when to cut your losses in real estate. It's also the same tactic that you should be applying to social media. It's when to know when something becomes inspiring to demotivating, because that is a very slippery slope. One day you're getting motivated because you're seeing someone's new build, but then the next day you're comparing yourself and going down that rabbit hole of self-doubt, and that you need to notice it and be like, I'm out. I need to take a tolerance break for a little bit. But yeah.
Very interesting. So I know it's a small community. Also, I think a lot of people who follow you are around your age, newly started because of a Toronto Life article and all that. I go to your meetup, Rice Network. In case you guys shout out to Rice Network.
Hello,
okay?
where's the camera here?
It's all
Shout
good.
out.
Rice Network has a Facebook group. Also, go follow Austin Ye. Whenever they have a meetup, it's a lot of cool people, and you tend to attract a lot of younger crowds.
Yeah.
Right. So, like in this kind of environment where we're at the tipping point of maybe the rates were whole, maybe it'll go down, or maybe we don't know. Like, what are the risks moving forward? How do you step forward from here for yourself?
Oh, dude. Crystal ball time.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, I think that it hasn't changed, right? For me, it's still investing for cash flow. It's still liquidity and cash flow management. It's still buying things under market value. The principles don't necessarily change on market condition. I think your liquidity matters a bit more depending on where you are in the cycle, and your expectations matter a bit more. So I'm more comfortable with a little bit longer of a time horizon to execute my BRRRR projects. But I'm also trying to be more creative with deal structuring as well when I put together offers. So what
do you mean by the deal structure?
Yeah, so VTBs is a common one, but outside of VTBs, conditions that I throw in there. So one of the common conditions, I've actually bought in a few properties in 2022 during the fall, and that was like when things slowed down. People thought things were going to get worse in 2023. I did as well, but I still bought in 2022 fall because I was able to put in a condition that allowed me, it was either vacancy or allowed me to negotiate what I need in terms of vacancies, right? So let's say it's a 5 unit and I needed 2 vacancies to make the numbers work out. There's a condition in there that says I'm allowed to negotiate 2 vacancies. If I'm unsuccessful, then I don't have to close this deal. So where's my risk really in that deal, right? If I either get what I want by closing, or if I don't, then I can just back out, right? So finding ways to structure the deal more creatively, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I think the residential space, like the single families and duplexes, this is famous last words, I might be completely off, but I think that boat has shipped at this point with people are already jumping back in the residential market. There was a property 2 days ago in Bowmanville, right? Small population. That's where you guys had it.
That's where we built the additional dwelling unit.
In Bowmanville, yeah,
that's where I
it's
built
40,000 people east, an hour from Toronto. I had 26 offers 2 days ago. And this is like coming into Christmas hall. You are not supposed to get multiples coming into Christmas. So that is already a telling sign. And there was another one where I was asking my mortgage agent to help me find a place in Toronto as well, like a house hack triplex. And then he sent me one. It was about 4 days ago or so, or maybe 5 days ago. And he said, do you want to book a showing? Got back to him 6 hours later. I was like, yeah, let's book a showing. He's like, the showings are fully booked up for the next 3 days.
Wow.
I was like, dude, this is not normal going into Christmas season. And this is just based off of people's sentiment that rates are going to drop next year, both on the US and Canada side. And consumer, like, you got to keep in mind, your average real estate buyer, homeowner, consumer are very sentiment and headline driven. And the entire sentiment has flipped around where rates are going to drop. And so already we're seeing people enter back in the Christmas season. I still think there's opportunity on the multifamily side. Yeah. Because multifamily operators, they should be operating on reality. If you're underwriting, expecting rate cuts, I mean, that's not how you're supposed to underwrite on the multi. Yeah, that's hope on the multi space. Yeah. So I get why residential people do it because again, sentiment driven. Multi's based off of reality. And the reality is rates have not cut, right, yet. And maybe it'll take another 4, 5, 6 months to cut. So there's still opportunity there, in my opinion. But famous last words, I could be off, and by the time this episode comes out, I'm working on totally stupid.
Aged like milk.
Exactly.
I think that's the famous of buy on rumors and sell on news, right? And now there's just rumors. And rumors is enough to move up the stock market or move up all the real estate, especially for retails.
Yeah.
Right? But over the long term, fundamental is going to drive all the real price movement. In the short term, it'll be fluctuating, just like stocks, right? And because of the ease of selling and buying now, right? Everything's so accessible through technology. All the speed of reaction of those pricing is increasing as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Austin, we could talk this for hours.
We could. Why don't we?
I know, right? Night is young.
Is there anything that you think you know that our audience don't and you really want to share it?
That I know that the audience doesn't?
Yeah.
Or if you could
Even
say
your social media doesn't. Like,
Yeah.
deep down, you're like, Cody, this is my number one killer.
Or even something that you would tell like 23-year-old Austin watching this right now. 2020 hindsight.
Oh man, that's a really good question. I could take it in like a couple of directions. I guess so cold calling is something that we've been doing for our wholesaling business.
I haven't done that yet. That's the
People hate doing it. I don't like doing it myself too.
But is it effective?
It is very effective.
Any single multi-million-dollar business have a whole team of cold callers.
Yeah.
The moment they opt in, pick up the call in 2 minutes, 1 minute, right? That's the good practice. Are you doing that?
I'm not doing it. I have someone who's doing it. Love him to death.
Where do you find him?
Sorry?
Where do you find him?
Don't tell him he's gonna poach him.
No.
He's gonna poach him. Don't tell him.
I've said too much.
Don't
much.
say anything.
No, but I have someone that he's a real estate investor, right?
Nice.
Because this is for wholesaling, so you need someone that has a decent amount of knowledge. They are working full time. And they want to still make active income on the real estate side. So, people like, oh, be a part-time mortgage agent, be a part-time mortgage broker. Real estate agents and mortgage insurance. You can't be part-time in those jobs realistically. You're not going to get clients that way. You can do wholesaling part-time, right? Especially if you're going to be doing cold calling because you're not spending money on leads. So we taught him scripts, we taught him talk tracks, and he just picks up the phone and cold calls when he has free time. So I think he netted over he didn't spend any money. It was definitely well over 6 figures in revenue. I think he netted about maybe 60 or 70,000 doing it part-time. And this is cold calling. That's the main strategy.
Is that Mario talking about?
Yeah.
Mario is my student.
Is he?
Yeah.
Mario, are we allowed to say his last name?
Don't have to say his
Sure.
last name, but
Yeah.
we know- yeah.
No, he's a killer, dude. He's working. God damn. Now people are gonna be
I wouldn't worry about them. Worry about him.
No, but he's like
He's a great
he's
guy.
just doing it part time, and
Yeah.
he's like able to make that sort of income. So if you are gonna be doing real estate and on the active side part time, yeah, fixing and flipping, you can do that part time as well. The agent, the mortgage side, forget about it. I would say do wholesaling.
Yeah.
I think that will give you also a more well-rounded skill set in how to negotiate deals, analyze deals, speak with sellers, find your own deals, so on and so forth.
I know someone from San Diego. Also, I think way back the episode, there's a person I think around your age or even younger has a broker of I think like 15 people now, and he sold I think, don't quote me on it, 250 mil or 2.5 bill or something.
Wow.
And the only thing he told me is like, Cody, I was cold calling. That's all I do all day.
Yeah.
So if you get cold calling or even messaging people and know how to convert, you will never run out of leads and you
Yeah.
will be golden.
Oh, absolutely.
The hardest thing that people don't do, that you do it so well, that applies to every single business.
Yep.
One more thing.
One more thing.
One more thing,
Other than
actually, that
cold calling.
just stuck in my head is LinkedIn. I think that is slept on. I've recently this week went on LinkedIn and I've had a decent amount of success of people just reach out to me just for phone calls right now, right? And it's just building a relationship. And these are people that are definitely not on Instagram. So one of them was a director at like Credit Suisse, I think like senior director at RBC in sales and trading. So obviously makes good income, probably has good savings. He's like well into his career. This was just off of posting on LinkedIn. I the same thing that I do on Instagram. Take that material, throw it on ChatGPT, tell ChatGPT, turn this into more professional content, go in, humanize it, and then throw it on LinkedIn, right? So just taking the same content that I have, using AI to transform it, posting it on LinkedIn, and you have a completely different audience. And the algorithm works like, it's not identical to TikTok, but like an Instagram, on Facebook, on Instagram, Facebook, it's hard to go viral, right?
Yeah.
On TikTok, it's easier to go viral. Same thing on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's algorithm, if you go on your homepage, it's a bunch of random people you don't know, right? So it is like the professional version of TikTok almost, and it's pretty untapped. So I've been going pretty hard on that. Don't know what the success is yet, but I don't notice many real estate investors on it, or at least if they're doing it, they're like bluntly marketing. They're not treating it like
Serious.
yeah, they're not treating it like building a story and building relationships and connections on it. So I think that's something I'm going to go very hard on in 2024. But we'll see how it turns out.
Or at least have your LinkedIn updated. Like I have mine updated all the time, and it's honestly such a great platform. You can get connected to people that you would never ever like have a coffee chat with. I just haven't been there in a while to respond to messages, but one thing that they added that's really cool is you can now add your own messaging in articles. So if they like, for example, like I always get a notification being like, hey, you've been chosen to kind of consult on this marketing article that we're writing. And I'll just like put in a blurb or my opinion on it, and then they'll like put your name in like consulted with or something like that. Like it's actually the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So they now are pushing your voice, your message, and now when people are reading that, you're the point of guidance. So yeah, don't sleep on LinkedIn,
Don't
guys.
sleep on that. And with AI, it makes it easier than ever to jump in that platform.
100%.
Yeah, just put your shorts there. I used to post shorts up there for like 3 months, and then my guy dropped the ball. And then I think there's a lot of hidden gem because I know there are people, agencies, podcast agencies, your marketing agency, they just go up and scraping the email, the phone number.
Yeah.
They multiple 7-figure business.
Yeah. You can do that as well. I took like a 2-3 hour course on LinkedIn, that like basic fundamentals to understand it. And it is, there's a lot of untapped potential there, especially for real estate professionals. The real estate professional is there. They're just throwing stuff without any thought. If you have a meticulous game plan, I wouldn't be surprised if you build like 6-7-figure businesses on there.
That's actually one of the biggest things I tell people. Don't post social media for the sake of it, but post with intention.
Yeah.
Because then you will get the best ROI. If you're just throwing spaghetti to see what sticks, sure, that will work for maybe the few people that are following you, but you want to be intentional.
Exactly.
That's the best way to get engagement. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So that's the main takeaway. Cold calling and LinkedIn for 2024.
There we go, guys. We're going corporate this year.
There you go.
Well, thanks for coming on, Austin.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
If you're watching until this point, make sure you like and subscribe, and we have more episodes like this waiting for you, so stay tuned. And if you don't mind, give us a 5-star review so more people like yourself can enjoy episodes like this.